This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar. We also have principal second violin and artistic administrator Merwin Sue, and we have a couple of special guests today, conductor Sarah Jobin and the TSO's principal trumpet, Lorraine Carpenter. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Yeah.
We are going to be talking about a concert that's coming up this weekend. It's called Classical Ellington, and this is music of Duke Ellington. Also, a couple of other works on the program, and we'll talk about that. But first of all, it's happening at the Peristyle Friday and Saturday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. More information about all of this and everything going on at TSO at ToledoSymphony.com. You can also call up that box office, 419-246-8000. See, I've got that phone number correctly memorized now.
You
right?
have been studying.
Yeah. No buzzers or alarm bells went off. So let's talk a little bit first about the North Star Festival. I know you recently did finish up the opera I Dream, which made a fantastic impression on the community. You've done a lot of stuff with North Star Festival, and this is going to be the last concert, right?
That's right.
In North Star. Has it sort of unfolded as you had hoped?
There's something about doing a festival over this much time, and with some events that are not festival events in between. So, we'd be full on into festival mode, and then we would do Symphony Fantastique, which is a wonderful concert with John Nakamatsu, but not part of the festival. So it's been a sort of thing where I found that the length of time between the start to finish is great, but with some interruptions, which have been very welcome, but I think if we did it over, maybe we wouldn't do it that way.
I imagine
just off the top
it's
of my
hard.
head.
Yeah, it's hard to follow the arc of it just because there's so many things going on during the season. And this was an exceptionally full series of performances, a lot of different things, and you brought in a lot of community partners as well.
That's right. But, and that's, I think, what we're happiest about. Is
I have to say, seeing the audiences at I Dream and also the audiences at the Kathleen Battle concert is the most beautiful, diverse audience that I have seen in either of those concert halls, like ever in my life. And so I think it's just been a fantastic success already.
Yeah.
With that. I mean, I wasn't able to go to the chamber concert, so I don't know what the audience was like with that, but
it's had a great response from the community, which is good. And really the fact that you're able to bring together different organizations under this umbrella has been a real success, I think. What do you think about that, Merwin, since you certainly had a hand in all the programming?
Yeah.
Well, I think that I've always kind of walked into this thinking that what will be some of the greatest effects of this will be on our organization itself. We have a lot of learning to do, and now we have a lot of people who we've been conversing with and been partnering with, and I think that's going to really help our organization learn, and I think that's wonderful. And I think we'll be able to kind of trace that out in the years to come and to see the impact, and I think hopefully this is just the beginning of something that, that doesn't feel like a one-off, and that we can kind of expand further, and not even just in a festival context, but something that really permeates what we do. And I think that's, if we can expand our reach and do a better job in listening as well as in collaborating and learning, I think we're gonna come out of this having learned some wonderful things and some really valuable lessons, and I'm so psyched about that.
Well, I'm glad that you were so ambitious about all of this and doing so much with it, because, it's one thing to kind of dip your toe in the water, another thing to jump in head first, and I think that's what TSO did this time around.
There's something to be said, though, for exploring so many different types of music. I think honestly, in retrospect, spirituals and the effect that they had in music, that dialogue has already begun. But doing an R&B opera, something that felt a lot more maybe like a musical, and then bringing jazz into the symphonic repertoire, I think is the thing that might be a little more uncomfortable, because we've all heard Dvorak 9. We all know the sound of going home in an orchestral setting. But I think the eyebrows are raised when we start having this dialogue right now about jazz.
Yeah, and there's an interesting thing about jazz and classical music. Now, you think of symphonic jazz and music, by Ferdy Grofé and George Gershwin, and that is much more akin to what you get in the concert hall normally, right? It's not that that different, really. Even Porgy and Bess at opera. But when you look at, Duke Ellington taking on the classics, he's taking the classical music and really transforming it into jazz.
And he's reinterpreted some great music. I mean, he did the Peer Gynt suites in band form. We're going to be doing his Nutcracker at this concert this weekend. And I love saying to people, why are we doing the Nutcracker in April? Is that this isn't Tchaikovsky anymore. This is definitely Duke Ellington.
Yeah. Let me play a little bit of it, actually.
He is a classic composer himself.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of, this is actually the harmony ensemble with Stephen Richmond. We'll play just a little bit of the overture. Now that is, that's not Gershwin. That's not Grove.
No way.
There's that old big band arrangement from Les Brown. He did his own Nutcracker suite. Les Brown and his Band of Renown. And that, to me, always felt like, what if Tchaikovsky were going to write for a big band?
Yeah.
This feels like, what if Duke Ellington were going to write the Nutcracker?
For Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
It has his stamp on it from those very first notes.
Now, when TSO is doing this, you're not doing this particular arrangement, right? Or are you doing...
Actually, the beginning of that sounds like what we're doing. The sound that people are going to get at the beginning of the concert when they come into the concert hall is the sound of a big band. The strings come in later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that, Lorraine?
I think it's great.
We've saved the strings for as late as possible.
Yeah,
right?
well, don't even get me started on that topic.
She's a trumpet player.
But what is your take on this?
My take is, I think that there's so much jazz that has permeated classical music that we really don't even recognize. And I think it's about time that we bring jazz into the concert hall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so amazing. I mean, just the opening 2 bars of that, a big smile on my face.
Well, when you say jazz, you mean like real jazz. You mean like jazz comes in many different flavors.
It does.
Right? There are lots of different kinds of jazz.
Yes.
This is more like the kind of jazz.
And there's different flavors in this concert, actually.
Yeah.
There's at least 3 flavors, if you count Ellington as being the same flavor.
Yeah.
Right. 2 Ellington pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
And we should probably say that. We open up with Nutcracker, but then we finish with something very different, like a very credible tone poem. Yeah.
Harlem.
So the opening motif of Harlem, that minor third, is apparently how Cootie Williams used to say the word Harlem, and that's why Duke Ellington wrote it into that piece.
Are you serious?
And yes, this is why that's the motif in Harlem. And that motif, unbeknownst to the people who programmed this concert, that motif is also in the Schoenfield, Schoenfield, for parables. Schön, however you want to say it in German or English. But anyway, there's a motif that's a descending minor third in the parables.
Yeah.
Which Schoenfeld uses as a Hauptstimme. Okay, we're doing jazz with Schoenberg.
Jazz in German.
So,
why not?
Yeah, Schoenfeld's piece is quite different. His flavor, his take on the whole jazz. But anyway, that motif is in both pieces.
Schoenberg
Who
or
knew?
Schoenfield? Or Schoenfeld?
Okay, I'm talking about.
I am so confused.
Okay, the guy who lives in Michigan is Paul Schoenfeld. But
Right.
it depends if you say his name in German or English. But anyway, he references so many composers in his piece, including Schoenberg,
Okay.
because he uses a Hauptstimme in some places.
Can you tell us what that is for folks who don't know?
Hauptstimme is this thing that Schoenberg used, which was to say who had the melody when it was not obvious. And
Couldn't
there
they
are
just hold up
places.
signs and,
Well, that's kind of what it's like. If people have like an H in the score, they have an H and then this little line, which is supposed to tell you when your melody stops, when it starts and stops. And he uses it only a couple times when it's really not clear who would have the melody. And that descending minor third, you might just kind of ignore it unless you know that that's the melody.
I think
it's
we
cool that
should
it's the same
use
as Harlem.
that for orchestras just to, sort of
It's
keep
actually
people
a
in line.
wonderfully clear notation. I mean,
It's like connect the dots.
Absolutely.
Really
It is-
clear.
I actually do think it's extremely clear because then you know immediately, okay, this is a counter melody of some importance, but you should be playing softer than this person. And then, I'm filler, play less.
Yeah.
It's a
Be
really,
quiet.
I think it's a wonderful, wonderful notation. But
You can just write a big F over the part for filler.
With the Paul Schoenfield. I think an incredibly underrated composer.
Yeah.
He's really good.
I think a beautiful lyrical gift. The Cafe Music for Piano Trio is one of my favorite pieces, and we actually put the second movement of the trio on our wedding CD just because it's just such a beautiful piece of music. And the Four Parables alternates between that incredibly lyrical, just gorgeous melodies and some moments which are almost laugh out loud funny. And that's
he's really
the
funny.
rarest of gifts for a classical music composer is really, really funny music.
Can I tell you my favorite marking in the score?
Please
This is
do.
actually for the soloist to play in the style of a drug-addicted barroom pianist. That's written in the score. That's in the Schoenfield.
Now, is that written is that handwritten or is it printed?
Oh,
in
no,
the score?
I wrote a bunch of things on the front of my score, and I brought it with me today just because I wanted to tell you some of my favorite markings and also all the composers who I hear in this score.
Because I'm seeing little scribbles all over the front page.
Well, that's
there.
what happens when
I thought maybe you wrote that
some
yourself.
of those are typos that I asked the composer, is this a wrong note?
Yeah.
Third trombone has a G natural. I think it should be a G flat.
Good for the trombones to
Stuff like
know
that.
if they're listening.
But, okay, so you want me to list all the composers that I hear influenced
In
in the
there?
Schoenfield?
Before we get to that theme that you mentioned, what is it again?
Harlem.
Okay.
The trumpet plays it with a plunger. It's
you
like...
sound like a sedated Edith the Bunker when you
Well-
do that sort of...
Okay, luckily I'm not singing on this concert. I just want to make that clear.
Play like a sedated.
That's right.
That could be in the score.
A drug-addicted, sedated, a drug-sedated
Some of the other
Edith
ones.
Bunker.
The oboe is supposed to play...
Archie.
Archie. The oboe is supposed to play poco bizzarro. Poco bizzarro.
Wait, let me translate. A little bizarre.
A little bizarre.
Yeah.
The solo piano has forte desperado.
Very desperate.
And
Or like a desperado, if we want to
Yeah.
think south of the border.
and the third percussion is playing a vibra slap or the jawbone of an ass.
Wow, that's quite a choice.
We're talking about the animal, right?
I don't know exactly what we're talking about. It's written in the score.
But that has like a biblical connotation there.
I don't know. Actually,
Look,
I
if
wouldn't
you
read too
go-
much into that.
I want you to Google,
don't
Zach.
know.
I want you to Google jawbone of an ass.
I don't want to know
And-
what kind of
It's
image
actually
search
a
is going to
biblical
show up when I do that.
No,
I might lose my job.
It's
No.
biblical?
I think so.
It is. Well, he's looking that up. I just want to point
What?
out that theme is also shared in the Colonel Bogey March. Yeah.
Well, Copeland also used that in Billy the Kid. Billy. So it's very,
yeah.
very common.
Your singing is much better than
It's
hers.
not really.
She should be singing.
There are only so many notes and combinations of notes. What'd you come up with there, Zach?
Yeah, it is
jawbone.
biblical. It's
no.
Samson with the donkey's jawbone. I have made great donkeys of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I know my Bible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is called Parables.
4 of them.
There
Wow.
you go.
Did you find 4 of them in the score? Are there 4 references to?
No, well, that's the only reference to a jawbone of an ass. Okay, now I'm going to look.
There could be 4 other hidden biblical
Yes.
terms here.
What else do you want to tell us about this Schoenfeld piece?
Well, it's amazingly complex and funny and simple. I hear Mozart and Haydn. There's some like Baroque moments in there. There's also like Messiaen. There's some chords that are just so complex that you don't know what they are, but they sound familiar and they're beautiful. There's I think there's references to Ludoslavsky. There's a burlesque moment where the brass just lets loose. There's William Bolcom in there. There's, sort of like nightclub, nice, I don't know, singable jazz. There's Tristan. He has his own Tristan chord, kind of, that opens the third movement. Like it's related.
You got to write these
Kind
down
of.
and send them an email. And
Well,
see if
I
he
did
signs
write
off
them
on
down.
it.
That's why. And also Mio, there's sometimes where he's bitonal. He's in two
Yeah.
different keys at the same time. And then there's just funny things, like the first entrance of the piano solo, he makes the timpani play a 16th note late, like on purpose. So when she's playing it correctly, it's going to sound like she couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, now, is he like trying to make the pianist look bad or the timpanist?
He's just funny.
Just creating a sound world.
He's just funny. There's a lot of stuff in here that's just funny.
You made sure it's not a misprint, right?
It's not. I'm sure that's not. And then there's another time when the brass has this little waltz thing and the snare drum player apparently can't catch up. And so the snare drum player sounds like he's a 16th note late until the last 2 bars. Finally, he catches up. It's like
I hope you put
things.
all this in the program notes. I mean, if I was a percussionist, I'd be like, make sure they know.
Maybe
This
he had a
isn't my
special
fault,
thing
folks.
about percussionists. I don't know.
And I should point out, this is a work, The Four Parables is a work that the Toledo Symphony commissioned 35 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe it's our first full performance of it since then.
We've performed movements, but we
right.
haven't performed the whole thing. And I think it's probably worth kind of situating this concert within North Star. I think one of the things that we've been trying to do throughout North Star Festival is to explore the intersection of music and history. And this concert really pays tribute to the jazz history of the Paris style. Duke Ellington was the first non-classical musician to grace the stage, and he played, I think, January 1956, and it was the first time that there had been a jazz performance in the Paris style. And then to create with the Paul Schoenfield Four Parables, a very jazz influenced work that was premiered at the Paris style, and then not only to pay tribute to that, but then to go and create more history with the Alice Gomez piece.
Yeah.
I think that was really the thread that was tying this together.
Well,
Latin jazz.
we can talk about the Gomez piece in just a second here, but this is the Schoenfeld is for piano and orchestra. Who's the pianist in the
Natasha
concert?
Natasha
Peremsky.
Peremsky, yeah.
Okay. Is that somebody that has been here before, or what can you tell us
She's
about?
making her debut with the orchestra. She performed this with the Grant Park Orchestra and just did a really, really wonderful job, and has since made the piece something of a calling card.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she specializes in this piece.
Yeah,
And
I
this
think she
piece
took
has
it to
been-
Oregon, too.
The piece has been performed all over the world and recorded several times by major artists.
Now we have a world premiere that's happening on this
Woohoo.
concert. And Lorraine Carpenter is here to tell us about that. Lorraine, the microphone is yours.
All right. Well, I met Alice when I had a 1-year position down in San Antonio Symphony. She was a percussionist who would sub with the orchestra frequently. We became friends. And in 2003, I commissioned her to write a work for trumpet and percussion. And we actually premiered that piece at the Women's Brass Conference in Normal, Illinois in 2003. And that
What
was
an
Normal.
interesting
That was for the-
combination. Well,
yes.
that's the University of Illinois is in Normal.
Okay.
Right.
Isn't it Normal? There is a, yeah.
Yes.
I'm from Illinois. I should
Right.
know these things.
Howard Dodge and Pratt's hometown, that's all I know.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Normal.
So, trumpet and percussion.
Right.
Like lots of different types of percussion?
Well,
or-
mostly congas.
Yeah. Were they playing a 16th note off? Or
No.
I probably was because they're
Thankfully.
it's very challenging,
Alice
these
doesn't
rhythms.
do
trumpet
So-
and congas?
Yeah,
love
I
that.
know. So I saw Alice 2 years ago at a summer music festival, and she said, I'd really like to rework that piece for orchestra and trumpet, and I'd like to give you the first dibs since I commissioned it. I said, fantastic. So I took that idea to Merwin. He, of course, ran with it. And I think the ink is still drying on the parts.
Yeah.
But we finally have the music, and I'm really excited about it.
So it's a Latin jazz suite.
Yes.
And this is an orchestral transcription of the trumpet and percussion piece.
Correct. She's
How do you
added-
well, is
Well, now
it
it's
pitch
for everybody.
percussion
It's for
then?
everyone.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, it's for the orchestra.
It's for orchestra now. Orchestra
Yeah,
and
for
trumpet.
orchestra now, but she started with congas.
Correct.
That sounds like an interesting journey right there to get from congas
Well,
to a full orchestra.
She said that she had to really think about some of the harmonic progressions because originally when she wrote it, she originally wasn't always thinking about the harmonic progressions. So in transcribing it for orchestra, she had to do some mental gymnastics in some places.
Correct.
I think it works great.
Yeah?
It's a
I
wonderful
think it's a great piece.
It's really
Are
fun.
you going to play it for us?
I could play tidbits
The
of
whole
it.
thing?
You've
I
got
did
your
bring a
trumpet
trumpet.
here.
I could play tidbits.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
trumpet.
Oh, you can play it right here. You can play it on this microphone right here.
Okay. Well, let me just talk about maybe the first movement. It's called Huehuanco. And it's very interesting. Huehuanco is a Cuban. It's two things. First thing is it's
Way
Huehuanco.
not Willy Wonka.
I took French, so if
It's
I'm
spelled with a
passing-
G.
spelled with a G.
I was thinking, Roald Dahl or something there for a minute.
Willy Wonka.
Like
I
Willy
believe
Wonka.
is the
Didn't he do
pronunciation.
Willy
Guaguanco
Wonka?
is how I would
Oh,
pronounce it
Yeah,
incorrectly.
Wonko.
So.
Anyway,
And
it's
I would
two
pronounce
things.
it even more incorrectly.
Yeah.
It's a Cuban rumba. And the second thing is it's a dance form that actually originated, they think, from the Bantu tribe in Africa. No. And it's a very, can I say this word on the radio? It's a very sexualized dance between a
can't
man
say
and a
dance
woman.
on the
I can't
radio.
say
Yeah,
that. It's
you
a
can't
very
say
erotic dance.
I mean,
Sing
hey, we
dance.
play Zalame, so
You are
you
right
can-
on my line of fire.
Jazz.
So
And I'm in the ejector seat here.
So it's the man is trying to seduce the woman and she's just kind of dancing around it. And if you can, I can actually hear this, I think. Of course, Alice may tell me that I'm just crazy or loco, but you can hear this in the opening of this piece.
Okay,
I played
Lorraine has
about
got her
4
trumpet
hours ago.
ready to play. Here we
I'm
go.
not going to play towards the mic.
Oh.
So I think you can actually hear the very masculine, staccato attacks, and then the woman kind of demurely ignoring it. So it's kind of exciting.
Wait, so the guy was a dee, dee,
Dee, dee,
dee,
yeah.
and then the woman was a scooby dooby doo.
Not today.
That's nice. Oh, she's pulling out the mute.
Right.
Now we're getting serious
Yes,
now.
we are. The second movement, I love the second movement. Alice and I are both cat people. So when she wrote this work, she wrote it for her cat, Pumpkin, who actually passed away a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
poor pumpkin.
Sad.
And her vision of this is a cat discovering a very sunny window. And you can actually hear the cat stretching and trying to find the best spot in the sun. That's the opening. It's a kind of a long trumpet cadenza. And then the middle section is a kind of a classic Afro-Cuban soul music. You can find this rhythm in a lot of Afro-Cuban music. It's just like a kind of a habanero, but not really.
We play a
So
little bit.
here's a little cat music for you. It's not quite so loud, Zach. So.
Yay.
Kind of sounds like a cat.
We've asked poor Lorraine to play her trumpet with the microphones everywhere and trying to face it away from being directly in the mic and hunched over the music, and we should have turned down the lights and
Yeah,
probably the conditions will be a little bit better when you do it in the peristyle.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be pointed.
We'll have a
That's the
music
plan.
stand.
And then just a little bit about the last movement. The last movement is called Cubop, which is short for Cuban bebop, essentially. And Alice was influenced by Tito Puente and Dizzy Gillespie and Machito. I think it's challenging for the orchestra because it goes between Latin rhythms and swing rhythms.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of switch it
Yeah.
instantly. So the opening starts out with a Latin feel. So you get that theme throughout the piece, and then just a couple measures later is a swing feel. So you get that running through the piece. So it's very kind of
Yeah.
crazy that way.
Yeah, you can totally hear it.
But Alice will be coming to hear the
Yeah.
piece, and so that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Take her bow.
Yeah, take her bow.
Now, Lorraine, before we got on the microphones with your trumpet, I said you would have to play a duet with Alain Trudel, because we've got him here in the soundboard.
Let's see if I can.
So get your trumpet
So
out
now
there.
we have to make that happen.
No, we have to get yours too. We have a
Okay.
couple of different sad trombones
All right.
from Alain. Let me play you one of them
He's
here.
already recorded. Hi, Art.
Keep it going.
Oi.
That was the world premiere.
Oi.
That's what
World
music school
premiere.
does for you, right there.
Elaine and Lorraine.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Wah, wah.
Oh, boy.
But getting back to the concert this weekend, because we're just
Yes.
about out of time, just to remind folks, it's classical Ellington. It begins and ends with music of Duke Ellington. Also, that world premiere that we were sampling there with trumpeter Lorraine Carpenter by Alice Gomez, her Latin Jazz Suite, and also music of Paul Schoenfeld, The Four Parables for piano and orchestra. That's happening this weekend, Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Paris Style, directed by Sarah Jobin. And Sarah, before we go, we should mention this is your first classics concert that you're conducting,
Yeah,
and you're about to leave.
first and last.
Great timing, you know?
I'll come back for the Messiah, but yeah.
Yeah. What's the story now, Merwin, behind this?
When we decided to put this concert together, I pitched the concert to her with the worst possible program I could
This
think
was
of.
the
Thankfully,
meanest moment you've
everyone
ever
in
had.
the office has a good sense of humor. Oh my god!
It was, I think,
Wait, you did it on purpose or not on
yeah.
purpose?
I tried to
Oh,
think
they were
of
torturing me.
Yeah.
I tried to think of like composers that I knew she might not be a huge fan of, and
Right.
things that are relatively thankless to conduct, like Ravel's Bolero, which is not a piece that allows a conductor to really shine. And I can't remember
We
what
had-
what
What
that
were the
program
other
was.
ones?
We had
but
the
it was
Liszt first
said-
or second piano concerto. We had
Bolero.
Which these are great pieces of music.
great
But
piece of music, but
as
they
a
don't go
combination-
together,
Yeah.
and they are not conductor favorites.
Friendly.
Yeah. And there was I want to say a very early Schubert symphony or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that
Yeah.
sounds right.
Exciting.
So they sat me down. They're like, "Here, we're going to give you a classics concert. Here's the program," and I was like,
No,
"Crickets.
I love
Well, how do I respond?"
your
What was
reaction
your-
was great.
I mean-
You said, "Okay, this is great."
Thank you.
And then Merwin and I erupted into laughter. This is the meanest I've ever seen a Canadian actor.
Hey, you hit your quota.
You got it.
He's learning from the United States.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
yeah. So then they showed me the real program, and then I was delighted
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I do think that Ellington is one of the great American composers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
That was awfully mean to play that trick on her right before she's leaving.
this was probably
this was a long time
2
ago.
years ago.
Oh.
I was brand new to the
Before-
job.
Yeah.
You're still in your
Maybe
old
that's
office.
why you left.
It was like a year and a half ago. No.
Sarah,
Well.
you've had a nice conclusion here. I think if you think about the festival, the battle concert, the this concert, looking out to the Indigo Girls, I hope we're sending you off with a bunch of highlights that you'll
Thank
think
you.
back highly on.
Yes, I feel really happy about my 3-year tenure here. And I also want to say, I wanted to say this from earlier in the program, I want to say how proud I am of the Toledo Symphony and the Toledo Opera for their programming and how it has changed in the past 3 years, even while I've been here, and how the two organizations have reached out to the community. Because this North Star Festival is a major initiative for both organizations, and it's a great effort, and I know that the effort will continue in the years ahead, but I just have to say that how proud I am of both organizations for what you're doing.
Conductor Sarah Jobin. The concert this weekend at the Paris Style. More information at ToledoSymphony.com. Toledo Symphony Lab is generously underwritten by a gift from the estate of Barbara Garwood and is a production of WGTE Public Media with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org or subscribing on Apple Podcasts. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Soon, especially to our guests, Sarah Jobin and Lorraine Carpenter. I'm Brad Cresswell, and you've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab here on FM 91.